Okay, everybody, let's get the show on the road. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Winnetka Village Council regular meeting for February 4th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please mute your cell phones and other electronic devices. And Rob, please do a roll call for attendance.
Thank you. Trustee Handler? Here. Trustee Dearborn? Here. Trustee Albinson?
Here.
Trustee Dahlman? Here. President Ritz?
Here. Item 2 is the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Dahlman will lead us this evening.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item 3 is quorum check.
Yes. The two remaining meetings of February are the 11th and the 18th. Are there any conflicts?
So I've previously told you to
The 11th.
go
Yep, that's right,
a
Tina.
conflict on the 11th.
Yep.
That will not let me appear virtually.
Okay, thank you. All right, that'll
Were
be
you
it.
good, Kim?
Yes, I am, thank you.
All right, public comment. This is the time of the evening where anybody in the audience who wishes to speak to council on any item that's not on the agenda can come up to the microphone and share your thoughts. For the record, there is no one except a reporter in the room who I don't think wants to address council this evening, but you can if you wish. Let it be known
Thank you
that
for
the
being here.
reporter cancels and we'll move forward. All right, item 5 is reports. Trustees, anybody have reports tonight? Hands up?
Nope.
Nope. Village attorney?
No report.
Village manager?
No report.
Village president, I have no report. Okay, item 6, establishment of the consent agenda. Trustee Handler has requested that resolution number R14-2025 be removed from the consent agenda for a separate vote. Without objection, the item will be removed for a separate vote. Does any trustee wish to remove any other item on the consent agenda for a separate vote? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the final form of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
That's a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Now we'll move forward with the approval of the consent agenda, and I'll ask Rob to read those items.
Thank you. Approval of the Village Council minutes for January 14th, 2025 study session. Approval of the warrant list dated January 17, 2025 through January 30th, 2025 in the amount of $1,756,471.85. Resolution number R13, 2025, approving an updated whistleblower protection policy, and resolution number R16, 2025, approving a service agreement with Municipal GIS Partners Incorporated for a geographic information system services, and a letter agreement with the Village of Kenilworth regarding geographic information system services.
Thanks, Rob. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda by omnibus vote?
So moved.
Second?
That's a roll call vote?
Trustee Handler?
Yes.
Trustee Dahlman?
Yes.
Trustee Albinson?
Yes.
Trustee Dearborn?
Yes.
Motion carries, and we move forward. Item number 8, ordinances and resolutions. Resolution number R14, 2025, approving a First Amendment to a parking agreement between the village and the Board of Education of New Trier Township, School District number 203, and this is up for adoption. And Finance Director Tim Sloth is here to present the item.
Good evening, Council. In September of 2006, the village entered into a parking agreement with New Trier High School that permitted the district to use various village-owned parking lots and street spaces for their staff, faculty, and students. The term of the agreement was from 2006 to 2009, with an automatic renewal each year at a provision that increased the fee by 5% each year. Since that time, neither party has terminated or renegotiated the lease and has automatically renewed with a 5% increase each year. Last year, I met with my counterpart at New Trier to review the terms of the agreement. We performed an updated inventory of the parking currently utilized by New Trier and analyzed the financial terms and agreed to put forth an amended lease agreement with the following key provisions. The amendment extends the contract for 10 years. And based on the inventory, the parking allocation of 312 spaces is currently in use is now clearly defined and outlined in the lease agreement. And finally, the annual payment on the lease will be reset to $200,000 for 5 years and increased thereafter by the CPI or 5%, whichever is less. So with that, that's the key provisions of the lease amendment. If there's any other questions on the lease, I'll happily take them. Thank you.
Okay, any questions, comments for Tim?
No, Tim, I was just going to confirm for the record that it's not really a reduction in the number of spaces that New Trier is contracting for. It was an update or like an update/correction, refinement of the actual spaces that have been in use. And so that's what this amendment does accomplish.
Correct. That's exactly the case.
Others?
Tim, how was the contract, how were the financial terms arrived at? Was it, you went from 300+ thousand down to 200,000, stable for 5 years, so it's quite a reduction. Is it supposedly proportionate to the amount of spaces, maybe that?
So we looked at the original contract and we did a 10-year look back and we analyzed what that would be had we matched the contract to the CPI or 5%, whichever was less. And we kind of did a run through the calculation. That got us to about a $219,000 of what that price reset would be. And then just in discussions with them, finalized on an agreement of $200,000. And, goodwill, we made it, set it for 5 years and then implemented the 5% or the CPI, whichever was lower.
I mean, I think that I think we're working with our fellow governmental entities, so that's a good thing. I mean, I don't have any objection to that, but I just was curious whether it was tied to were they paying for too many spaces and then we rolled it back in some kind of pro rata basis based on the fact that for 18 years or whatever, they paid for too many spaces.
It wasn't specifically tied to a space count, but we did look at that, what it would be if it was based on 312 spaces versus a count of 360.
And do we have any records on where we got the 360 spaces?
We have general information on where the parking was, but there was no detailed maps included with the original agreement. And when we counted the spaces, I met, on site at each spot, and we physically went, counting physical spaces. So some of the spaces are unmarked, so I don't know if they used an estimate, and whereas there was physical cars and when we were walking. So
Well, I think to Trustee Handler's, one of your concerns is there's no New Trier student that heretofore, no entity at New Trier student that heretofore has had access to a space is now no longer going to have access. The same number of spaces being utilized are still going to be utilized.
correct. In the last contract year and for several years before that, there was 312 spots
Got it. Good.
being utilized.
Just one other question. Why are we holding it, or what was the thought in holding it flat for 5 years versus some modest increase?
I think it was just intergovernmental, working with,
Okay.
a community partner, and trying, it's balancing that line of, picking a revenue spot that's fair to both entities, that's the, proper cost of the parking, and then, again, just working, in good faith with our partner.
Okay, thank you for explaining
Yeah,
that.
and there was also some discussion about the fact that it was the 5% compounded increase year over year, and it became fairly expensive, and we didn't believe it was a program to enrich the village. It was making sure the parking spaces were used appropriately. So this was just kind of a compromise in the discussion.
Okay, great. Thank you for explaining that.
I do have something that this reopened. I'm in support of this, but I continue to see, and I have continued to hear from people I know who live in Wilmette, that they're making a cost-benefit analysis to park illegally in our designated commuter or business parking south of Green Bay, south of Tala. And I heard somebody just recently proudly say, well, it's still a cost-benefit analysis for us to have our kids get tickets every 2 weeks and then I'm just concerned, right? So I feel like there is a cost to the village with New Trier students parking illegally. We do have, I continue to say that we need to ramp up our enforcement of that. And if there's families in Wilmette or other places willing to pay the parking ticket, then maybe, there is a cost to parking situation with New Trier. And I'm not suggesting that this is not appropriate, and I think you've done a nice job, and we want to be good governmental partners. But I'm in that area most mornings, right around 7 o'clock, and I'm just seeing loads of kids just, park and head to school,
Well-
taking up spots from the business.
I'll pass the comments on to Chief O'Connell.
Yeah.
I do know that a frequent flyer or a frequent car that's been ticketed can have more severe fines. So
Yeah.
that's something they'd have to check. The mornings are very busy.
Yeah.
In terms of, allocation to crossing guards, either CSOs or officers, so they're
Yeah.
spread pretty thin at that time. But I'll raise it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think this is the right thing to do. I think I just think that there is a cost to New Trier, to the businesses, and
Yeah.
especially as we're looking at revitalizing
Right.
Indian Hill.
And the rationale for the parking fee is that they're using infrastructure assets from kids from all over the district, right?
Right.
And there's a cost to that.
Right, I mean, yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Nice work, though.
Thank
all
you.
good.
I might add that the total cost to New Trier is $53 per space per month, which is pretty reasonable and I think reflects a good partnership.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we are out in the burbs, so, and I know that they rent the spaces to students and probably put a little something on there for administrative and
Staff,
whatever,
they have
and staff.
Their teachers and staff.
So, personally, I think it's enough. I don't think it's egregious. And they've reciprocated with us on multiple occasions and will continue to, especially as we get into stormwater on the east side. So these things all add together. All right. Did we vote on this?
We need to vote.
Oh, okay. Okay, may I have a motion to approve resolution number R14, 2025?
So moved.
Second?
That's a roll call vote?
Trustee Handler?
Yes,
Trustee Dahlman?
Yes.
Trustee Albinson?
Yes.
Trustee Dearborn?
Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Tim. All right, I would, item 9, old business, none. 10, new business, none. Appointments, none. Closed session, I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn to closed session for the purpose of discussing specific personnel pursuant to 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act. Under the motion, when we adjourn the closed session, this public meeting will automatically and immediately adjourn without the conduct of any further business or comments. May I have that motion?
So moved. Second?
Roll call vote?
Trustee Albinson? Trustee Dearborn?
Yes.
Trustee Handler?
yes.
Trustee Dahlman?
Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you. We are now going to executive session.